Every day, roughly 5 million people eat a meal they never questioned, sealed in a tray, served at 35,000 feet, handed to them by a stranger in a narrow corridor. And they eat it, without asking where it came from, without asking how old it is, without asking what exactly was done to it to make it last this long. They never ask, because the system was built so that they wouldn't have to.
Think about what food does when you leave it alone. Within hours, bacteria colonize, proteins break down, fats turn rancid. A cooked chicken breast left on your kitchen counter becomes dangerous in 4 hours. A bowl of rice, 2. The biology of decay is relentless, invisible, patient, and absolute. Now, consider this. An airline meal is cooked not in a kitchen, but in a facility the size of an aircraft hangar. It is portioned, sealed, stacked, refrigerated, loaded onto a truck, driven across a tarmac, loaded onto an aircraft, held in a galley cart. And that's before the flight is even delayed. By the time a flight attendant slides that tray in front of you, that food may be 16 hours old, sometimes more. So the question isn't whether airplane food is good. The question is how any of it is still technically safe to eat at all.
The answer begins in places most people will never see. Outside of major hub airports, in industrial zones, tucked behind cargo terminals, there are facilities that produce upward of 30,000 meals a day. LSG Sky Chefs, Gate Gourmet, D.O. & Co., corporations most passengers have never heard of, operating kitchens larger than football fields, feeding the equivalent of a small city every single morning. Inside these facilities, time is the enemy, and they have engineered their entire system around defeating it. The moment food leaves the cooking line, it enters what the industry calls blast chilling, a process that drops the internal temperature of a dish from above 70 degrees Celsius to below 3 in under 90 minutes. This is not refrigeration. This is controlled thermal assault. The goal is to collapse the window in which bacteria multiply, to move food through the danger zone so fast that microbial growth barely begins before it's already stopped. From there, the meals are sealed. Not simply covered, sealed. Modified atmosphere packaging replaces the oxygen inside each tray with precise combinations of nitrogen and carbon dioxide, gases that suppress the very chemistry of spoilage. The environment inside that tray is engineered, constructed. It is not air. It is a preservation system wearing the face of a meal. And then comes the cold chain, an unbroken sequence of refrigeration from kitchen to cart to aircraft galley, monitored at every transfer point. If the chain breaks, if a cart sits too long on a warm tarmac, the entire load can be condemned. Airlines have thrown away hundreds of thousands of dollars in meals because a single temperature sensor logged the wrong number at the wrong moment. Because the margin is that thin. Because it has to be.
But survival in transit is only half the equation. There is something stranger happening once you're in the air. Something that has less to do with the food and everything to do with you. At cruising altitude, the cabin pressure inside a commercial aircraft is equivalent to sitting atop an 8,000-foot mountain. Your sinuses partially close, the mucous membranes in your nose dry out, and your ability to detect sweetness and saltiness drops by as much as 30%. Not because the food changed, because your body did. The Fraunhofer Institute for Building Physics studied this directly. In simulated cabin conditions, subjects consistently rated the same foods as blander, less satisfying, requiring significantly more salt and sugar to register as palatable. Which is why airline food is often seasoned to a degree that would seem aggressive on the ground. The chefs aren't overcooking it. They're compensating for a physiological handicap that kicks in the moment you leave the earth. Then there is the sound. Research from Cornell University found that background noise, the constant low roar of jet engines, suppresses the perception of sweet and salty flavors while simultaneously enhancing the perception of umami. This is why tomato juice, which most people would never order at sea level, becomes inexplicably appealing in the air. Bloody Marys, savory dishes, foods with depth and mineral weight. Your palate, reshaped by altitude and noise, craves them. You are not eating the same meal you would eat on the ground. You are eating a version of it, filtered through a body that has been physically altered by the act of flight. The industry knows all of this, has known it for years, and it has responded not by making food that tastes better, but by making food that survives better. Food optimized not for pleasure, but for persistence. Engineered to withstand blast chilling, reheating, pressurization, time. Designed to arrive edible, even when the conditions it travels through are anything but. This is what airplane food actually is. Not a compromise, not a failure of culinary ambition. It is the result of a cold, precise, industrial calculation. The conclusion reached when the question isn't, how do we make something delicious, but how do we make something that survives? Every component of that tray, the texture, the seasoning, the seal, the portion size, the very atmosphere locked inside the packaging is an answer to that question.
So the next time a tray slides in front of you at 35,000 feet and you peel back that foil and you wonder why it tastes the way it does, know that it was never meant to taste like food. It was meant to survive the journey, just like you. The Factory Files.